Hi, my name is Norman Reedus. I'm here at the Criterion Vault.
I watched all of Norman Reedus' Criterion Closet picks and ranked them according to which one I liked the most on my first watch. There were some challenging films on this list.
Okay, this movie, The Color of Pomegranates. Wow, to this movie.
First, we have The Color of Pomegranates, directed by Soviet-Armenian filmmaker Sergei Prozhanov. This film is widely regarded as a masterpiece of world cinema. It's a highly stylized and poetic exploration of the life and work of the Armenian troubadour Sayat-Nova. Rather than following a traditional narrative structure, the film is a series of richly symbolic and visually stunning images that evoke the essence of Sayat-Nova's art, culture, and spiritual journey. This film is a great piece of art, but honestly, it is a very challenging film on first watch, especially if you go into it not knowing anything about it, because that's what I like to do with movies. I like to go into them not knowing anything about them, not watching trailers or reading plot synopsises or anything, not even reading the descriptions on the Amazon Prime rental page. And if you do that with this movie, if you go into it not knowing anything, you are going to be lost. I think it is kind of inevitable, because this is a very artful, it's a very poetic, it's a very impressionistic kind of a film. It kind of reminds me of Kiyonoscatsi in that regard, but it's not as general as Kiyonoscatsi. It is a much more specific thing that the filmmaker is trying to do. He is trying to make an impressionistic painting, a poetic interpretation of one specific man's life. And if you don't know who that man is, and you don't know what that man has done, then you are not going to be able to follow along with the plot of this movie, if you could call it a plot. Having said that, even if you don't know the story, this is still a very beautiful film to look at, and it will forever go in my repertoire, my Rolodex of images that I want to inspire me when I'm making my own films. And the reason for that is that this is a very meticulously crafted film. The sets are meticulously crafted, the colors are meticulously crafted, the imagery is meticulously crafted. And even if you don't know about this man's story, you can still appreciate the imagery, and you can be inspired by the images, and you can draw your own conclusions in some way, but you're just not going to know what the director was intending to do. So having said all of that, as a first watch, this movie did not impact me the way that I thought it would. I do think on second watch, if I study the life of Sayat-Nova, I think I will appreciate it a lot more and understand the symbolism and watch YouTube videos about the symbolism of this movie and then watch it again. I think I will appreciate it a lot more. It is one that I just need a little bit more context for to really appreciate the way I should. I rank it number 4.
Oh, Videodrome. God, this movie is another one. This is like one of those movies that you watch and you're like, who's the dude that came up with this?
Next, we have Videodrome by David Cronenberg, who is the master of body horror movies. It follows Max Wren, played by James Wood, a sleazy president of a small Toronto-based TV station, Civic TV, that specializes in airing softcore pornography and violent content. Always searching for the next shocking thing to boost ratings, Max stumbles upon the mysterious underground broadcast called Videodrome. I won't spoil anything else, but this is a pretty complicated plot, actually. I don't even remember it all, but it's very fun, and it's very entertaining, and it's very gross. And what else do you want me to say about it? Okay, I'll say this. The film, I think, is essentially about the power of media, the power of television. It's about the person who controls the media controls people. They control their brain, like literally. So obviously that's a very powerful and important message. I don't know if it's like the most impactful way to get that message across by using a body horror movie, because I primarily view this film itself as entertainment. It is media, like you're using media to criticize media, and I think that's a little odd, even if the message at the core is correct. I view this as a fun David Cronenberg body horror movie, so it's just a fun movie to me that I'm not really looking at for advice about how to live in the world. It's just, I like to be grossed out sometimes, and I like to throw up when I'm watching movies sometimes. Yeah, by the way, go watch The Substance if you haven't. It's great. It's great. I rank it number 3.
And then My Own Private Idaho. This movie, the Gus Van Sant movie, it's so honest.
Let me tell you, this was another very challenging movie to watch for the first time, because it is essentially, in my opinion, 3 different movies put together. First of all, it's kind of like Midnight Cowboy, because it follows the escapades of a male sex worker as he finds people to sleep with. It's also a little bit Paris, Texas, because in the later half of this movie, the main characters go on a quest to find someone who was lost to them. And then in the middle of this movie, in between those sections, Here's where I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble. This movie is kind of like August Rush. And I know people are going to hate me for that, but if you've seen both of the movies, you know what I'm talking about. You know the exact thing that I'm talking about if you've seen both of those movies. But I will be more generous. This movie is not like August Rush, it is more Shakespeare, because this film is loosely based on the Shakespearean plays Henry IV and Henry V. And that's obvious in this film because Keanu Reeves' character will literally burst out into Shakespearean dialogue in parts of this film, and the people around him will burst out in that dialogue as well. And it's almost like they're trying to put on plays for each other to entertain each other or something. And it kind of took me out of the film at first because I wasn't expecting it. But I always say, when you don't like a movie or when you don't understand a movie, just take a step back and try to view it through a different lens. Try not to view it through the same lens you view every movie, the same 3-act structure, narrative way of viewing a movie. Try to view it through a metaphorical lens or an artistic lens or a poetic lens or an impressionistic lens. And when you take a step back from this movie and you view it through the lens of new queer cinema, and you view it through the lens that the director was a gay man himself who was trying to challenge the rules not only of society at the time, but of narrative filmmaking, you can kind of understand where he's coming from and you can appreciate it in a different way. And I do appreciate this movie a lot, but I do wish that this movie was more narratively focused because I love the characters in it. River Phoenix's performance was great, like everyone says. The scene of him and Keanu at the campfire is amazing. There's just not that clear story that I can latch onto because there's a huge break in the middle of it where they go into Shakespeare. So I do still think this is a great movie. I think it's an important movie, an impactful movie, and I rank it number 2.
The Candy-Coated Sandman, Blue Velvet.
Next up is Blue Velvet, and I have talked a lot about this film on my channel before because a lot of people in the Criterion closet picked this as one of their picks, so I won't go into much detail here, besides to reiterate the fact that I think this movie is essentially about the underbelly of society and the underbelly of ourselves. And what I mean by that is just, it's a film that gives us the idea that the white picket fence, the middle-class ideal in America, is just a facade. It's a way of kind of putting the blinders on to the rest of what's going on in the world without seeing the darkness underneath. It's a way of just kind of numbing ourselves to the fact that the world is actually kind of a shitty place and there's a lot going on underneath the surface in the darkness that we don't know about. And there's a lot going on in ourselves that we don't know about that if we aren't careful will manifest itself in darkness and evil kind of actions. And this is illustrated not only in the camera work in some of these scenes where the camera kind of dives into the ground, it goes through the ground and then finds bugs underneath the ground, just obviously metaphorically illustrating that point that there is grossness, there's nastiness underneath the surface, but it also illustrates that point in its characters because the characters who seem like morally upstanding people, they get into some trouble and they ultimately become that trouble themselves in certain ways. I just think it's a great metaphor for that because I think everyone sucks at their core, honestly. Everyone's bad and everyone has the ability to be bad. So I think it's a great movie, and I think it's just a very atmospheric movie created by the late great David Lynch, rest in peace. And I rank it number 1. Okay, so that's actually all I have for you guys today because he only picked 4 Criterion films. Thank you, Norman Reedus, and thank you, Criterion, for making these videos because they're very interesting and I love finding movies that I haven't seen before that are challenging and that make me think differently about films because I think that's the beauty of the film medium is that they can be whatever they want to be, you know? And so can you. You can do whatever you want. And okay, goodbye.
Thank you for being with me in the closet, and I hope you have a good day.